All right, I'm gonna share my screen here. Let me know if you guys can see it. All right. So today's session is on advocacy. My name is Christy Aparo. I am the director of the Community Resource Center and Guided Personal Supports program at Northeast ARC. And today I'll do a little network overview for any new folks who are joining us today. Then we will have Nora Bent present from the ARC of Massachusetts. We will then have Mass Advocates Standing Strong, and then we will have Dan Seigard. At that time, after, we will have everybody put in their questions, we'll answer them, we'll show you our resource guide that we have created, and then upcoming events that we have. So we are the Northeast Transition Collaborative Network, and it was created in response to gaps in communication and collaboration between school districts, agencies and providers, young adults, parents and caregivers, and community groups. We host monthly virtual sessions similar to this one about adult services, opportunities in the community, as well as quarterly professional development for educators on topics related to person-centered transition, workshops for families and caregivers, and around the person-centered planning transition process. We do happen to be hiring for a community resource specialist. So if you're looking to make a career change, feel free to take a look at the job application. The Community Resource Center is made up of 5 community resource specialists within the Northeast region of Massachusetts. They are embedded in the Northeast region of the Developmental Disability Services Office. And they provide resources and events to families all within the area. Yeah. So at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it right on over to Nora Bent. Nora Bent is, sorry, I lost myself in the screen. Nora is from not Mass Advocate Standing Strong. She is from the ARC of Massachusetts and has lots of wonderful resources for us to share today.
Great. Thank you so much, Christy. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you all see this okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Nice to see you all. Thank you so much for having me. As Christy said, my name is Nora Bent. I'm the Director of Government Affairs and Strategic Partnerships at the ARC of Massachusetts. And I am so glad to be here today to talk about effective advocacy at the state and federal level. Happy to kind of take questions at the end. I'm going to run through some slides pretty quickly so that we have lots of time to hear from Mass Advocate Standing Strong and Dan, and time for questions as well.
So I can listen on yours.
All right, so my guess is that people are familiar with the ARC, but just to give some quick context, the mission of the ARC of Massachusetts is to enhance the lives of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and autism and their families. And I think it's so important to point out that advocacy is in our mission statement. It's really the heart of what we do. And here at the state chapter, that is really the bulk of our work. We have 17 chapters across the state. Northeast ARC is one of them, who provide the direct service work, interacting with families and individuals. And we work really closely with them to translate those advocacy needs into work at the state and federal level. And I think it goes without saying that right now there is so much going on in this space. And the advocacy needs are really great. The need for advocacy really couldn't be greater right now with the amount of uncertainty and current challenges coming from the federal government and thinking about kind of how the state picks up the pieces from that work. So I really want to just share today some tools on how to do that work effectively, while also not burning ourselves out, because it's really easy to be kind of in a lot of areas right now, doing a lot of things, and we need to preserve ourselves and our energy for the long haul here. So advocacy, again, I think I don't even need to say is really needed at the federal level continuously. Even though we're hearing, every day it feels like there's new things happening concerning bills being signed into law, staff being laid off. The need for this advocacy is really continuous. And even though here in Massachusetts we have an incredibly supportive congressional delegation, the number of calls and emails really do matter to help their offices prioritize these issues. And the stories are really central to that work. And I'm going to talk a lot about that today, about how advocacy is really about that storytelling. And then on the state level as well, the advocacy here is really more important than ever. States are going to be left with some pretty challenging financial and policy proposals, and figuring out how to make those work while not cutting services and still uplifting this community is really, we need to be pushing the advocacy on that level as well. And the ARC is working on about 15 bills that have nothing to do with the federal landscape, but could really make progress and improve the lives of folks here in Massachusetts tomorrow. So we need to be doing kind of all of these things at once simultaneously, but there's a way to do that effectively. So that's really what I'm going to focus on today. Before I jump into that, just to really kind of center what we're working on here at the ARC, obviously Medicaid is really our top concern and priority at the moment. I'm happy to kind of answer questions about what's going on at the federal level. I know there's so many moving pieces. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on it today in order to really focus on the advocacy and what we can do about it. But we are laser focused on cuts to Medicaid, changes to Social Security, the dismantling of the Department of Education, immigration changes, and then the state's ability to respond to all of these things and to respond to funding cuts. And then at the state level, really focused on the workforce crisis, health equity, making the healthcare system work better for people with disabilities, and then community inclusion and empowerment, how to make sure people have every opportunity to thrive and be successful in their communities. I could talk about all of those things for several days at a time. But again, happy to answer questions on those or connect offline, but really want to focus on the advocacy piece today. I'm going to go pretty quickly through kind of 101 of legislative advocacy, the who, what, where, when, why, and how of both state and federal advocacy. And for the most part, the tips and tricks are the same at the state level and the federal level. The one piece that's really different is the who, because we have different people representing us at the State House and at on Capitol Hill in DC. So the who on the state level, based on where you live, everyone in Massachusetts has one state representative and one state senator, and then of course the governor overseeing the entire state. And some of this may be familiar for folks. You may have heard this spiel before, but I think with so much happening, it's really helpful to go back to basics and think about really those kind of effective tips and tricks. So you'll get these slides after today with all of these links, but the map on the left side of your screen is a really helpful tool where you can plop in your address and it will tell you who your state legislators are and their contact information. Even if you think you know who your legislators are, it is always a good idea to just double check. There's been some redistricting in the last few years, as well as a lot of retirements and people leaving the legislature for new opportunities. So we sometimes hear from people that they thought they know who their legislator was, and then they went and looked and it was a different person. So I encourage you to take 2 minutes to just double check that today. And again, you'll get the links here. I do just want to point out that the staff in these offices are really critical. I partly say that as a former State House staffer, but the staff are really the ones that have the ear of the legislator, and if you convince them, you're good. They're the ones doing the research, looking at the bills, responding to emails, and really have their kind of finger on the pulse of what's happening. So if you ever call the office and speak to a staffer or get an email response from a staffer or get a meeting with a staffer, that is just as good in many cases as meeting with the legislator themselves, and really encourage you to use kind of every interaction, no matter who it's with, as a way to advocate. And at the federal level, it's a pretty similar system with a couple of slight differences. Again, based on where you live, you have one representative, and the map on the screen shows the congressional districts. They're quite a bit bigger. There's only 9, so they're pretty large. And then we have 2 senators that cover the entire state. So both Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey are responsible for the entire state of Massachusetts. Again, you'll get this link to find who your representative is. And even more so for these people, their staff are so critical. I cannot even imagine what their schedules look like right now and running back and forth between the district and DC. Their staff are really doing pretty heroic work in this moment. And often there will be a district staffer who's responsible for a certain area. So connecting with them, making sure they know who you are, and inviting these people out to your programs is really critical so they get to know you, get to know the folks that you serve or yourself. That piece is so important, especially as we're talking about kind of prioritizing and helping them focus on these issues. I think we're all here today because we have a sense of what advocacy is. So I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I think sometimes this can feel really overwhelming. Like advocacy is about knowing the details of a policy or being able to answer really complicated questions. But it's really just about using your voice to influence and educate people in decision-making positions. Working really collaboratively with organizations like the ARC or Mass Advocates Standing Strong or Northeast ARC or DDS, whoever you're working with, building those relationships so that you can be successful together is really about kind of what this is about. And I'm going to talk a lot about sharing the stories and lived experiences. For the most part, when you do advocacy, you do not need to be a policy expert by any means. No one is going to ask you really detailed questions about a language in a bill or how something is funded. They want to hear from you why this matters, whether it's your own personal experience, your professional experience. Sharing those stories really helps them to prioritize and understand the impact of an issue. So sometimes people are worried that they're going to get a question that they can't answer. For the most part, you won't. And if you ever do, you can just say, I don't know that, but I'm happy to follow up. And we are happy to help on the back end to figure out how to follow up appropriately. Probably the number one question we get is what is the best way to do this? Phone, email, in person. And I think it's really about what you are most comfortable with and what is easiest for you logistically. In terms of virtual connections, whether you're calling or emailing, both are really great options. I really hate talking on the phone, so I am someone who prefers to email. We also have a really helpful action alert tool at the ARC, which again, you'll get this link to, and I can put the link in the chat when I'm done yapping here. But this is a great way where you sign up once and we will email you when action is needed. And you plug in your information and a pre-written email goes directly to your legislators or the governor, whoever we're contacting in that moment. You can always customize those action alerts, and that's really helpful to throw in a sentence or two about why this bill or this budget amendment or whatever it is really matters to you. But it's a great way to just kind of get plugged in and get started, and really easy to do in 5 minutes. So all 3 of those phone, email, action alerts are fantastic ways to advocate. It's always helpful to follow up too. So if you send an email, maybe call a week later, or vice versa. If you call, maybe send a follow-up email or do the action alerts. You can kind of mix and match here depending on your capacity. And then sometimes people feel like they have to trek all the way into Boston to do this advocacy in person. But really those virtual options are fantastic tools. And the beauty of this system is that your legislators live where you live. They live in your communities. So meeting them at their district office hours for a cup of coffee, inviting them out to your school or your program or to meet you individually. Those are really great and easier ways than getting into Boston to do this work and connect with them. And they are often happy to do that or jump on a Zoom call or whatever it is that works for you and your life. And then, of course, you are always welcome to go to the State House on your own, or you can join us We do a few events in the spring, but are also happy to kind of help organize a day for you and maybe join you there if we can. Um, on the action alerts, I want to just kind of elaborate on this a little bit. These processes are super long. Legislative sessions are 2 years long, and it can often take multiple sessions to pass a bill. And we have a whole other training that goes into a lot more depth about the legislative process, and I'm happy to chat about that if folks have questions. But just to suffice it to say that the process is long and advocacy is really needed throughout and looks different at different steps in the process. So these action alerts, which this screenshot is of our current ones, are a great way to just know what's going on and kind of know when action is needed. So you don't need to be, checking the malegislature.gov website every day or stressing yourself out about kind of what's needed when. We will tell you when something is needed and what to do. For example, currently, the action alert, the July 2025 in the bottom of your screen is focused on a bill that would codify a lot of education protections in state law for if they are repealed or changed federally. This is a bill that's moving through the legislature really quickly and kind of attached to other vehicles. So it is a little bit tricky to follow. But by doing this action alert, you're kind of clued into our advocacy, you're on the list, you're doing the work. And if things change with it, we'll let you know. The one on the top here is also directly to the governor to talk about the importance of Medicaid, home and community-based services, and the ADA, which we're currently celebrating the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So these are good examples of kind of things happening right now that you can do that are specific to this moment. Okay, my last couple of slides here. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I think we all can understand why advocacy is so important. But it really does help lawmakers to prioritize, especially in these moments when so much is going on. It really can impact funding and access to services. And your policymakers want to hear from you. That's their job. Their job is to represent you, reflect the will of their constituents. And in many cases, you have the expertise, either from your own lived experience or your professional experience, in a way that they might not. Perhaps your legislator is an expert on energy policy, but they don't know a lot about special education. Oh, my screen just went black. I don't know if that happened. Can you all still see my slides?
It looks like it's loading to us.
Okay.
Nope, there it is.
Okay,
Nope, there it is.
was weird. Okay, cool. It like had a mind of its own. So yeah, in many cases, you are the expert, and sharing just your life and your professional life or your lived experience really can educate them. And again, this work is about persistence. I wish I could say it was a really easy, you make one phone call and a bill passes the next day, but this is about a long game, keeping your passion, keeping your persistence, and really focusing on that storytelling. And it's really easy for me to stand here and say, oh, just share your story. That's so easy. Don't worry about it. But I understand that that's really vulnerable and can be kind of scary. So feel free to do it kind of at your own pace, build your relationship with your legislator or their staffer, and share what you're comfortable sharing. You don't need to go into kind of all the nitty-gritty details of your life or your job, but saying at a really high level, I have benefited from speech therapy funded by Medicaid, and here's why that's impacted my life. That's an example of sharing your story. So really kind of being willing to go out on that limb, but doing it in your own kind of comfort zone as you feel comfortable. And I think especially in these moments when everything feels so scary and bad and overwhelming, it can be really easy to go into these conversations and assume opposition, assume that your lawmaker isn't going to do the right thing. But for the most part, they want to. They want to do the right thing. They want to know from you what you want and how they can be a good supporter and ally. So going in with the attitude that you want to keep the door open for future conversations, you want them to think, oh, I met with Christy last week and we had a really great conversation and I learned a lot and I want to keep talking to her. You don't want them to think, Christy came in and she yelled at me for something that I didn't even do, right? That's not effective. If they do something you don't like, you can tell them that, but you want to go in with that attitude of you're learning, you're teaching them, and you can kind of do this work together. And a thank you goes a long way. Legislators are overwhelmed, staff are overwhelmed. They're doing a lot of work right now. So thanking them for their work and pushing them to do more is a really good strategy. Super quickly, just a little bit more detail on kind of how to share your story. Again, you don't need to go through everything and you want to do it pretty concisely, but really remembering that you're the expert on this. Your lived or professional experience is the advocacy. That is how you illustrate the importance of a bill or a budget amendment. So you want to be really clear about what that is, pretty concise, and you want to connect it to an issue. So if you're advocating for more funding for a program that you've benefited from, you want to talk about the impact that that program has had, how it benefited you, and why you know that they need more funding or more support. And explaining the personal impact. I benefited from this program, and I know how that can support other people. So here's why you need to fund this program. Having a really clear ask, and this is something we can help with. The process can be a little hard to navigate and sift through. So if you're ever unsure of what you're asking, reach out to me and I'm happy to help. You always want to follow up, right? For the most part, you should be getting an email response or a call back. And if you don't, it's okay to ping them and say, I emailed last week, just want to make sure you got it and didn't have any questions. And always good to practice. This can be scary and hard to do for the first time, especially. So find a trusted friend to give you feedback on where you can maybe shorten up your story or be clearer. I think we all benefit from that. And just a reminder that the policy work can feel really complicated, but you really only have to worry about your story. We are happy to provide you with whatever tools or information you need on the specifics of a bill or an issue, but you're there to really focus on your story, and you can help lawmakers see why the change you're asking for is needed. Okay. I'm going through a lot really fast, so apologies. Thanks for bearing with me. This is just a really quick kind of checklist to get started if you're new to this work. Making sure you're registered to vote, voting in every election, finding your federal and state lawmakers, encourage you to sign up for their newsletters, follow them on social media, reach out to introduce yourself, just kind of plug into their work so you can see, oh, they're going to be at the library in my town for an event this weekend. I'm going to go talk to them about why Medicaid is important to me. Signing up for our newsletters and our action alerts. The ARC of Massachusetts focuses on state level action, but we work really closely with the ARC of the United States on the federal side. So encourage you to sign up for those lists. And then my email is here. I'll throw it in the chat as well. Please reach out anytime with questions. Here are also some links to our state legislative platform, our budget advocacy, and some really helpful fact sheets on what's happening at the federal level. I will also just really quickly flag, which may be interesting to this group, we're working on a bill to improve the Turning 22 transition process, really, I think, similar to why this group was founded in the first place. So if anyone is interested in getting more involved in that, let me know, and we'd love to loop you in on that. I will stop sharing and turn it over to folks next, but happy to do questions at the end or connect offline.
Thank you so much, Nora. That was so much information and wonderful information about the legislative advocacy. We really appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind, stop sharing your screen. For some reason, it's still up there. Excellent. So next, we are going to have Mass Advocates Standing Strong, and they're going to present on group and community level advocacy.
Hello. Can folks hear us okay so far?
Yes, sounds great. I'm going to work on pinning you up to the top so that everybody can see your whole group nice and big. So.
Thank you. And just to repeat, our group is me, Jenna. I'm joined by Sam Fleischman here. Hello. We also have Kamisha, Desiree, Al, and Erin. So we got ourselves a good little group here. And it's only, this is only a part of our staff.
All right, I'm gonna talk into the owl to see if it picks me up. There we go. Amazing.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you everyone for listening into our presentation. I appreciate it. We appreciate it for Mass. We are Massachusetts Advocates Standing Strong. Our website is www.wearemass.org, and our motto is nothing about us without us.
Okay, if there's our questions, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. We also ask that you do not use the chat feature during the presentation. Thank you.
All right, so once again, our motto is nothing about us without us. Mass supports local, regional, and statewide meetings, conferences, and trainings. Our mission is to empower self-advocates through education so we make choices that improve and enrich our lives.
Alrighty, so we are each going to explain what self-advocacy means to us. I'll go first. My quote is freedom. What self-advocacy means to me is freedom of speech and having everyone at the table. Said by me, Kamisha Haribo, pre-trainer and self-advocate content expert. Desiree?
Okay, thank you, Kamisha. Speaking up for yourself and others who can't speak for themselves. I am a self Northeast trainer, officer, and sergeant at arms.
Yeah.
All right. And my quote is, I advocate for myself and for others who can't. This is from me, Al Milne, peer trainer, board member, and Southeast Regional Facilitator.
Okay. About Mass, our wonderful organization. So we are run by a board of self-advocates. We have 5 regions. West, Central, Northeast, Southeast, and Metro. And we have our self-advocacy groups, which provide friendship, leadership through officers' positions. Starting groups, we focus on advocacy on local issues and human rights. We also have peer trainings.
Beautifully said, Kamisha. So now we're going to tell you guys a little bit about our regional meetings. So regional meetings focus more on advocacy and provide an opportunity for people to talk about local issues. This can include things like legislation, housing, transportation, and many others. What we talk about each month at our meetings is decided by the self-advocates. Each region has a regional coordinator or facilitator that works with regional officers to run these meetings. So I am the regional coordinator for Metro. Regional officers are elected by meeting attendees. So these are self-advocates that are elected by their self-advocate peers to represent their region and be on their regional board. We meet monthly either in person or on Zoom. And down in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a beautiful picture from one of our in-person meetings at Beaverbrook Step in Watertown. That's just one of the many places we can meet. It's really up to where folks would like us to be. And the self-advocate individual in the red shirt next to me is actually named Matthew, and he is one of our board members and a part of the Metro Regional Board too.
All right, now we're gonna talk about our statewide drop-ins. All regions are welcome to join these meetings. Our statewide drop-in have primary focus on socialization. Our facilitators, mass self-advocate staff, research topics that have to do with each month and create activities related to their findings. We also have ASL interpreters provided.
I'd just like to mention that everyone's allowed to go to these meetings. So
They are statewide, as Kamisha's pointing out, which means it doesn't matter if you're in the Northeast or the West, you can attend these meetings.
So one of the core things that we do at Mass is offer peer trainings. And we have many peer trainings run by self-advocate peers and people with disabilities. And we have a list of some of our current trainings on this slide. So we have an awareness and action training, which we call ANA, healthy self-advocates, which we refer to as HSA, our rainbow trainings, which are sexuality and LGBTQ+ trainings, our self-advocacy leadership series, or SALS, which is a group training, and then iSALS, or Independent Self-Advocacy Leadership Series, which is the same SALS curriculum, but allows individuals from anywhere to sign on their own and join a cohort to do the same training on their own if they're not part of a group. And we also have a training about how to start a self-advocacy group. And on the right-hand side, we have some photographs from one of our in-person ANA trainings. And you'll see it's a combination of our live in-person trainers and some pre-recorded materials as well. And I don't think we have anyone. Oh yeah, if you look closely, you can see some of the folks we have on the team today in these photos.
We got Al, Aaron, and myself.
Yep, and I'm also an ANA trainer myself.
Kamisha too.
Yes. So Mass Rainbow Groups. Mass offers rainbow groups across Massachusetts for all of those who identify as LGBTQ+, as well as their friends and family. Rainbow is an open and welcoming community for all who are interested. Rainbow is run by Pauline Bosma, very nice lady, by the way. Rainbow at wearemass.org for more information. Also check out Rainbow QuickBooks that Pauline helped create.
It's a wonderful resource.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to talk about our legislative day and our Mass State House initiative. It's a recent example of our work with getting into the community is our legislative day. Our advocates presented on the work that Mass does and the legislation that matters to them at the Massachusetts State House recently. We had State Senator Robin Kennedy start us off with a welcome speech, and she introduced us, and she stayed for the entire meeting, which was awesome. And it was a hybrid event, so we reached people both in person and online. And this was back in May.
And it's one of our many events. We hope to go back to the State House, right, Erin?
Right.
All right, now we're going to talk about the 35 days of ADA, a celebration countdown. The 35 days of hashtag Everyday ADA, we shared what the Americans with Disability Act, ADA, means to us by getting quotes from the disability community. We shared a post for every day leading up to the 35th year anniversary of the ADA. So these quotes will be from Desiree, myself, and Kamisha. So, Desiree?
Thank you, Al. My quote says, I speak for others, for other people who can't speak. So like nonverbal clients who can't speak for themselves, I speak for them.
Okay, so my quote is, to me, the ADA means quality of life for people with disabilities. Al. Kamisha?
Thank you, Al. My quote says, everyone's voice needs to be heard, and everyone deserves to be at the table or in the room. Kamisha. Just like I said in the beginning with my other quote.
And if you'd like to hear quotes from other self-advocates that are a part of our staff or part of our groups, please check out our Facebook page. That's where we shared all of these amazing pictures and quotes. You can find us at Massachusetts Advocates Standing Strong on Facebook. And the link is also should be on our website, which Christy so thankfully shared ahead of time a little bit earlier.
Okay. Sam, would you like to ask the question?
You bet. So you may be wondering how you can get involved with Mass. So how would I become involved?
Awesome. Thanks for asking. The best way that you can become involved with Mass is to attend our meetings or register for one of our trainings. As a reminder, we have regional meetings, statewide drop-in meetings, which we talked about earlier, everyone's invited to. We have rainbow groups, and we have our wonderful newsletter that I help produce.
Nice.
And Kamisha, do you remember what that amazing picture on the right is from?
Yes. We also did a hybrid event of where we cooked with a hospital. It was
Boston Medical Center, right?
yes. It was like a cooking with Mass type thing. So we made some healthy options, which was tofu, I believe, and ramen, and we also made an ice cream.
And I think it's a beautiful example of how the work we do here is for self-advocates and primarily by self-advocates.
All right, so we're going to talk about our annual self-advocacy conference. Save the date for our next self-advocacy conference at the Norwood Sheraton on November 22nd. More details to come.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity here to present, as Al so kindly said at the beginning of our presentation too. And if folks have any questions, Christy, do you prefer that we take time now to answer or wait towards the end of the meeting? What would be best?
If you don't mind, let's wait just until the end and then we can answer everybody's questions.
That
Excellent.
sounds like a
Thank you
plan.
so much, all of you for joining today. I really appreciate you taking the time. At this time, I'm gonna pass it over to Holly Keenan, who is our community resource specialist in Lowell.
Hey everyone, I would like to introduce our next presenter. His name is Dan Sicard and he's a self-advocate. You're on.
Hi. Hi. Thanks for letting me join. Self-advocacy is defined by the ability to speak up for yourself, for your needs and interests. Early in my life, I was shown no empathy, whether I was getting into trouble for not being able to shoot a hoop in a basket or being able to play with other students because of my disability. This defined my self-advocacy journey to where I am now. At a young age, I strived to be in what my head was considered normal. I started my journey when I transferred schools into a special needs school. This is where I started mentoring students and advocating for what I needed. The school was very open and understanding. This is where it also began EPIC, a self-advocacy group in Boston who did community service projects. This is where I've learned how to self-advocate as well as work as a team to complete projects around the community. This is also where I decided to advocate for a chess club for my friends and others to play chess, and it was a major success. Starting my journey into adulthood, as the pandemic ended, I worked with my job developer to get a job in the community. This is where, hoping that was a temporary job, I was approached by my service coordinator with the opportunity that I couldn't pass up. This opportunity I used to my advantage. By talking and discussing, working with my service coordinator, I was able to live on my own as well as give others a chance as well. Feeling that some of the autism support programs were too hands-on by staff, I asked my service coordinator to discuss it. My service coordinator came to me with an event called Friends on the Go. I was able to put in suggestions to make it more something that I would like, and maybe others too. My advice to people who want to self-advocate would be work as a team. You're not going to do much on your own. Be patient. Nothing can happen overnight. As well as lastly, speak your mind when it's the right time. You may have an idea that no one has ever thought of. Attending the Mass ISLs program, I learned that there are many more people who try to self-advocate but don't know how, or want to put in the effort to do so. There are many issues facing other people, some that I can't even imagine. That is why they should speak up to resolve that issue and advocate for themselves. That is why I've come here today to maybe help inspire people to advocate.
Thank you, Dan. Back to you, Kristen.
Thank you, Holly. So now we're going to open it up for questions and answers. If you have a question that you would like to ask any of our presenters today, please feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand. Carrie Neenan, who is our community resource specialist in the North Shore, is going to facilitate those questions.
All right. So yeah, if anybody has a question, let me know. I'll kind of start it off and just ask some of the self-advocates, mass advocate people. Do you ever work with community-based like city groups like Commissions on Disability in people's towns or anything like that? Just because I know that's kind of another community-based way to kind of advocate at a city level.
Are Mass folks okay if maybe I start answering this before others want to jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So that I think is a wonderful example of how we're always looking to collaborate. I think one of the ways we get involved is through our partner events. For example, the recent ABA Day rally that we had attended in March. I think that was a place where we were able to touch base with a lot of different communities. I think another way we do that is definitely through our trainings. It's a wonderful way that we get out into each community and make some long-lasting connections. For example, those pictures that we included from our ANA training were at the Cambridge Ridge and Latin School in Boston. And Kamisha herself could say how we went there for a separate event and had lots of teachers coming up to us and recognizing us because we had gone there and done a training in the past. But if there's ever any specific organization that you know of and can think of, please send them our way, and we would just love to see the ways in which we could collaborate.
Yes.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
I'd just like to add on that when me and Jenna went to the Cambridge Regional Latin School, everyone was like, "Yay, we know math because we see you do our trainings. We want you to come more often." We were at an exhibit table that time, and I was like, "Wow, people actually like know us and want us in the room." So that was cool.
That's great. I love that. And just for the teachers that we have on the line here and the other kind of school representatives, what do your school-based trainings look like? How long are they? Do you come right to the school? How they set that up?
Talk about that a little bit.
Great
But-
questions.
Yeah, I love them. Self-advocates, do any of you guys want to chime in first and then I can follow up?
So
Do
I
you want me to
think
get started?
I can start if you
Go for it, Kamisha.
So I think how it works is Sam Fleischman reaches out to the staff or the like school providers, and then she reaches back out to us and asks us like what works, what doesn't. So we have like 3 consecutive days, either Wednesday, Monday, or Tuesday, or whatever it may be, and then we go from there. We schedule times to meet and practice and go over it, and then the day of we present. Would you like to add, Sam? Am I missing anything?
Sure. Yeah, I think that was a fabulous answer. And Kamisha's right. So it's a combination of direct outreach from us and outreach from the schools. We have a sign up form on our website where folks often will express interest in a training. And then we offer both in-person and virtual trainings. And we'll work with the staff at the school to find a mutually good time. And our trainings, sometimes we have a 3-part training, which would go for 3 weeks or 3 consecutive days. And then we have a 8-week training, which is once a week for 8 weeks, just as 2 examples. So we have a couple different ones about different topics and work with the contacts at each school or center or organization to kind of find the best fit and a time that works for everyone.
And we also love just presentation opportunities like these. So even if you're not someone that's involved with the school and you have a group of people that you would love to teach about self-advocacy directly from self-advocates, always think of us and we would love to come out.
That's a good point too. Yeah, there's another thing that we offer, which is a panel presentation. And sometimes that's a better fit for programs that have kind of one slot to fill. And we'll work with the team to identify some questions for our self-advocates, and then our advocates will share their responses to those questions on a panel presentation.
That's great. I think that's a great tool for teachers and for people, in this transition age. And let me ask our self-advocates, because I think, you know, advocating for yourself is hard. If people are, shy, if they don't like talking to other people or in front of people, what's some advice from you for someone that's just kind of learning how to speak up for themselves?
I think I could speak on that.
Go for it, Al.
Just trust the people, trust the facilitators who do the trainings. Just try to like take it one step at a time. I mean, you're not going to be a full advocate overnight, but just take it one day at a time.
And Al,
just
don't you
ch-
say, sorry, Al.
Because I had an experience where I was shy. Because
Mhm.
I was in the same shoes as they are, so I have a little more empathy, knowing that it's hard.
That's exactly what I was going to mention, Al, how you mentioned yourself that in the past you were someone who was shy, which is hard to believe because you've
Yeah.
got some great experience even like emceeing our conferences, speaking in front of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So just hang in there and just try to take advice and don't be afraid.
And be able to,
Don't be afraid to speak your mind. That's
yeah,
Mhm.
speaking your mind is really, I feel really important, even even though people may or may not like it. It's really important because we're all getting our voices out there, and we're all putting putting each other first, and I feel like that's very important for us to do, not just individually, but like as organizations that like work with self advocates and other folks. So I feel like that's basically why we're here, and to like inspire and uplift everyone. So
That's
Um,
great. I love that.
Desiree wanted to add too before
Yeah.
we move on.
I'm the opposite of these guys. I've side. I'm always outspoken and very bold. But I always have like sympathy for others that can't speak, like can't, they're shy and then they don't want to speak. So I always tell them just practice in the mirror. Just practice in the mirror and just pretend there's another person right in front of you. So I've been working for Mass for a very long time, 10 years, almost 11. So I've my shyness it never comes through. I'm very, very bold.
she is. Respectfully.
I think
I
that's
think
great. And I think too, like just focusing on your story, like Nora was saying, is so important when you're talking to anyone you're trying to advocate for, whether it's, teachers or service providers or legislators. I think that's really, we need more voices of people who have that experience.
Yeah, I feel confident in saying that so much of our staff, I think, are great role models, and I find myself really learning from them. I'm someone who has autism, and when I first started working here at Mass, there were a lot of things that were challenges for me, which might have been easy for a neurotypical person, such as like traveling or even coming into the office here, taking public transportation, I had to work up towards that, and I was able to do that because Mass provided me with such like a welcoming and understanding environment. And so I think it's just a great place to be around people that can relate to you and also inspire you.
Yeah, we have a self-advocate whose name is John Mullally, and one of our trainings shares a quote from him, which I'll do my best to paraphrase correctly. But it's similar to if you can breathe, then you can advocate. And if you advocate, we will believe you. And I think that's really emblematic of Mass. Here is that wherever you're at, Mass is here to uplift you and welcome you.
That's great.
I have a question real quick. Can ARC share the slide with everyone? Cause I would love to find my representative or whoever I need to talk to and be like, this is what we need to do. I feel like that's important.
Yeah, definitely. So after this is over, we send a post-program email to everyone that was registered, and it'll have the slides, and it'll also have a link to the recording of today's session, and a resource guide that Christy may show in a minute here when we're wrapping up. But all of that will be in the email after the program today.
Awesome. Just wanted to make sure.
Yep. Yeah, we'll make sure to pass on all that important information. Any other questions from anyone?
We don't buy, I promise.
Excellent. Well, I can take it from here. Thank you, Carrie. Just wanted to make sure that I show everyone our website, which is ecommunityconnections.org. On here, you can find the recording of this session. You can find our resource guide. You can find free inclusive events, accessible spaces, all ability activities. So feel free to check out our website. Then, as Carrie was just mentioning, this is our resource guide that will be in the follow-up email after this. It has many, many pages of resources. If you view it from the link, it has clickable links that you can just open right up. And then we do have some upcoming events. So just in 2 weeks, on August 12th, we have recreation opportunities. Feel free to scan that link to sign up for the Zoom. This is our next virtual session from the transition group. We will have Dana Rybicki, the Director of Recreation from Northeast Arc speak, the Alliance of Massachusetts of YMCA, the VP of Program Partnerships from Special Olympics, and then Waypoint Adventure as well. On September 30th, we are going to have our another virtual session, and that topic will be collaborations between schools and caregivers. And as always, I just want to thank all of you so much for coming, for advocating. Feel free to reach out to us at Community Resource Center at ne-arc.org if you have any questions. If you would like to upload events to eCommunity Connections, you can do that through the website, but you can also reach out to us through email. And we are located at the Liberty Tree Mall, so feel free to always come and visit. We're here Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, 9 to 5-ish. Yes, so thank you all for joining today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this summer day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you.